So Ben Carson is facing a lot of backlash after he made some statements after addressing the Department of Housing and Urban Development for the first time since he was sworn in. And he made a remark where he referred to slaves as immigrants and also compared them to people who came to Ellis Island. I want you to see this video and we'll talk about it.
Museum on Ellis Island. And look at the pictures of all those people who are hanging up there from every part of the world, many of them carrying all their earthly belongings in their two hands, not knowing what this country held for them. Look at the determination in their eyes. People who work not 5 days a week, but 6 or 7 days a week. Not 8 hours a day, but 10, 12, 16 hours a day. No such thing as a minimum wage. They work not for themselves, but for their sons and their daughters, and their grandsons and their granddaughters, that they might have an opportunity in this land. That's what America is about. A land of dreams and opportunity. There were other immigrants who came here in the bottom of slave ships, worked even longer, even harder for less. But they too had a dream that one day their sons, daughters, grandsons, granddaughters, great-grandsons, great-granddaughters might pursue prosperity and happiness in this land. And do you know, of all the nations in the world, this one, the United States of America, is the only one big enough and great enough to allow all those people to realize their dream. And this is our opportunity to enhance that dream.
Slaves on the bottom of a ship being immigrants and wanting the best for their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren in this wonderful land of opportunity. Do you really think that, Ben Carson? Or do you think when they were on the slave boat they were thinking, oh, fuck me. What the fuck's going on? Holy shit. And he's just chained there on a fucking wooden plank against his will, being taken from his family, everything he knows, his land. But once he got to America, you know, that fighting industrialist capitalist spirit really lifted them up and gave them something to hope for in the future. See, this is why it's such a ridiculous thing when Republicans praise hard work and tell all these people you wouldn't be poor if you didn't pull yourself up by the bootstraps and, you know, just work harder, you're lazy millennials. And no, that's not what we're talking about, Ben Carson. What we're talking about is the ability for people to make a living wage and not have to lobby against the government and form unions so our 3-year-old kids don't get black lung in a coal mine. And shit, at the rate this Trump administration's going through, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the reality in 8 years. But do I think Ben Carson meant this in a derogatory way? Or, I mean, you can't really even interpret it as such unless you're calling him like a Uncle Tom or something. Which, to some extent, let's be real here. If we're using it in the vernacular we're using it today, yeah, he's a little bit of an Uncle Tom. But anyways, I digress. He's just an idiot, guys. Ben Carson is just an idiot. He believes that the ancient pyramids were built to store grain in them. He's a Christian fundamentalist. He said God changed his life when he tried to stab his friend with a knife and it broke off on his belt buckle, and that's when God changed him. This is a guy who, after he knew he wasn't gonna go anywhere in the primaries, he stayed around just so he could do a book tour. He wasn't going to any campaign events. He was off the grid, basically, unless you wanted to go down to the Barnes & Noble and get your latest copy of the smartest, dumbest person ever in existence signed. So, I found a few more clips. If this alone, my ranting and raving, wasn't enough to convince you, this should be enough to convince you that this guy is a complete moron, who, by the way, in his own words said, "I'm not qualified for public office." So, let's take a look at these gems.
You're not supposed to think like this and talk like this. A lot of white liberals just don't like it, do they?
Well, they're the most racist people there are because, they put you in a little category, a little box. You have to think this way. How could you dare come off the plantation?
Obamacare is really, I think, the worst thing that has happened in this nation since slavery. And it is, in a way, it is slavery, in a way, because it is making all of us subservient to the government. To me, it doesn't sound like a complex statement at all. I said the people in Nazi Germany did not, most of them, believe in what Hitler was doing. But instead of protesting, instead of registering their displeasure, they simply decided to go along to get along.
Doctor, these are your quotes. You said we live in a Gestapo age.
What, did you read the book?
I have not read the book, no.
I rest my case.
Should we default on our debt?
Let me put it this way. If I were the president, I would not sign an increased budget. Absolutely would not do it. They would have to find a place to cut.
To be clear, it's increasing the debt limit, not the budget. But I want to make sure I understand you. You'd let the United States default rather than raise the debt limit.
No, I would provide kind of leadership that says, get on the stick, guys, and stop messing around.
And we need to understand our history. A whole section on slavery and how evil we are. A whole section on Japanese internment camps, and a whole section on how we wiped out American Indians with no mercy. I mean, I think most people, when they finish that course, they'd be ready to go sign up for ISIS. I mean, this is what we're doing to the young people in our nation. You can't just say because it happened that way this time, this is the same situation. It's not the same situation. Because people have no control over their race, for instance.
You think they have control over their sexuality?
Absolutely.
You think being gay is a choice?
Absolutely.
Why do you say that?
Because a lot of people who go into prison straight, and when they come out, they're gay. So did something happen while they